We want to welcome you back to All Things Real Estate. Once again, your hosts, Gary Kelly and Brad Avergon.
Welcome back to the second half. I am Gary Kelly. I am with Castanet Realty Group, and I am joined by the ever debonair Brad Avergon of Fairway. Is it still independent?
Independent as the day we were born. Yes, indeed.
Fairway Independent Mortgage, which is good. So, Brad, we're talking about, what do you love your house and things that you can do to spiff up your house that won't cost a pile of money. And frankly, there are many of the same things you do to get your house ready to go on the market.
Yeah.
And we were talking about your house specifically.
Yeah.
I think we left off with Cindy saying, well, I'd really like to have a 4-bedroom home somewhere else other than Westboro. Just joking. Cindy, call me later. What about the outside of the house? What can you do on the outside, especially in the wintertime?
My job in the wintertime is to make sure the driveway's cleared and so nobody, and the walkway's cleared so nobody gets hurt. I don't know what you can do in the wintertime on the outside. What can you do, Gary?
Well, there are people that will paint it.
In the winter?
I'm not sure that that's the best move, because what they're going to do is they're going to paint it. They're going to put dryers in the paint and all that. And maybe it'll look good at first, but it won't look good over time. If it's that bad, maybe you wait till the spring and then you paint it. Painting a house is not a small task. But one thing everyone can do is paint the front door. And if you have a storm door of some kind, you can keep that closed, open the door, and paint it in the heat of the inside, and make it a whole new appearance just with the front door.
Yeah, that's the first thing really that people see, right? When they walk into a home, when they pull up to a house, the first thing they really are looking at is that front door. It's kind of going to guide them as to what they're going to see. So I imagine if the paint is old or dirty or chipped, it's like the rest of the house isn't going to look better than this, most likely. It kind of sets that tone. So if you make that look nice, and that I don't even think that takes a whole can of paint. It just takes a small can of, a small can.
It takes about a quart.
But the right paint, right? So if you got a metal door, you can't just use you got to use like Rust-Oleum paint or something like that, right?
Rust-Oleum makes a great product for doing the garage floor, but they also do, metal, obviously. What if your house needs a good pressure washing and it's wintertime?
I don't know, Gary. What if your house?
Brad, you know what the answer is because you read the article.
I don't remember in the article where it said that you could do it in the middle of winter. That's the curveball on this one.
Well, I didn't say that. What I said is spray it and forget it is the product to use, because you can just spray it on. It'll kind of kill off whatever's there, and it amazingly looks great.
I actually used that product not for the siding, but for the roof of my house in the fall. You had recommended it to get rid of some of the moss and I guess the lichen that grows up there. And I wasn't going up on the roof of my house. There's no way. But I ordered that stuff, to spray it and forget it, and I hooked it to my hose, just like it's like the fertilizer you'd buy or weed, whatever. I hooked it up to my hose, and it mixes with the water, and it shot about 20, 30 feet up there, and I got it, and it did a great job. Really good stuff.
It is kind of amazing stuff, and I'm not trying to put pressure washing guys out of business, but if you've just got a little grime on the house, spray it and forget it. We'll take care of it. No question about it. What about windows?
Windows, I think you can clean, and at least from the interior ones, you can clean them. Pull them in the winter. You got to move fast, but you can do that. I would imagine that's a pretty important thing. You want to be able to see outside and make it look good, and yeah. I
use water and vinegar, white vinegar, 50-50 mix.
Yeah.
And what I do is I use a squeegee, put it on with a rag, squeegee it off, and you can actually get some production doing it that way. I don't want to be a window cleaning guy. The professional window cleaning guys will basically do the same thing, although they're rather adept at bringing along a razor blade to scrape off anything that's perhaps stuck to the window that just a squeegee won't take care of.
Right. Yeah, you like bird droppings or.
But you got to be careful. I've seen people go nuts with the razor blade, and they end up with scratched windows.
Yeah. Windows are tricky. Somebody told me that if you use newspaper afterwards, there's something in the ink, and and I know it's a little messy, but
Let me ask you this, Brad. Where do you pick up a newspaper?
I get the Community Advocate every single week.
Exactly. Good answer. Well done.
Thank you. Not even pre-rehearsed. But yeah, I don't know if that works, but it seems to work, give the windows a nice shine. But I think you're absolutely right. Clean windows are important.
Well, you know what it is? When you go up to the house and the real estate agent's fumbling with the keys to try to get in, what are the people looking at? They're looking at the front of the house. And if you've got, bushes out there, you can, if it's not a day like today where it's very cold and snow coming down and whatnot, you can kind of neaten up bushes in the wintertime, just trim them a bit.
Yeah.
Okay. And that makes a big difference. So I think that those are things that you can do to neaten up the front of the house so that when the real estate agent is fumbling with their keys, or you're going home at night and you fumble with your own keys, you still get to enjoy the look of a nice looking home.
You know what else I think is also helpful on the outside too? I notice a lot of folks, because a lot of the fixtures, depending on when they were put up, there was brass and different things that were in fashion. They get really tarnished, or sometimes they'll come off the wall a little bit, or they look messy. They just don't look right. For very short money, you can go to Lowe's or Home Depot or whatever and buy new outdoor fixtures that, number one, provide way more light. I've been stunned by like the LED.
Right.
I've got a neighbor that's got LED lights. It's like an airport, it shines over into my window, but they're super bright. A lot of them are low voltage, and they look great on the house. They're just, they look new, and they're just good. And it's not that expensive.
I remember when buying lighting for a house was a really expensive thing. And I'm sure that you can still go places and spend lots of money, but you're right, Brad. It's short money. Upgrade the look, not a big deal. How about in the kitchen?
Yeah, I mean, I think the kitchen, is it's one of the big areas that people look at. A good cleaning, I would imagine, is really par for the course. If you've got a stove that you used every day, it can accumulate grease and stuff, and it may not bother you, but somebody coming to look at the house, it can make a difference. Or if you got a lot of appliances are stainless steel now, so that's really important to have them have a good shine. I learned something about stainless steel I didn't know. My wife teaching me every day how to be a good husband. 10W40 oil, right? On stainless steel appliances gives them a super clean shine. So
mineral oil also does the same kind of thing.
Cool.
Looks really sharp. I've seen people take steel wool to it, and it will, maybe stainless steel, but it will scratch. And you don't do steel wool. That's just a mistake. Bad things waiting to happen.
Yeah.
So Brad, you do all this stuff and you still want to sell a house. At what point do they come talk to you as a mortgage guy?
Well, it depends, I guess. If they plan on selling the house and they've got another home to move to, or they are gonna just take the cash from it and go somewhere. If they need to sell the house to qualify, that's something that's going to be conditional, and then we're talking about maybe getting a mortgage. We need to sell this house first. I can look at all that stuff. So if somebody's thinking about selling a house, it's certainly a great time to talk to me so we can talk about the plans, where they're going, what do they think it's going to cost, what they want to spend, because there's a lot of options for folks. If somebody, for example, is over the age of 62, they can actually use a reverse mortgage to partially contribute towards their down payment if they want to.
Now, Brad, for years, people have been saying, reverse mortgages, beware, no good. And I see increasingly guys like you are saying, it's not that bad a product.
Yeah, they put some guardrails on it. When they first came out, there were some bugs in it that they needed to iron out. But now they've got some good guardrails on it, and a lot of it is about communication and transparency. Just because you have a reverse mortgage, you don't have an obligatory monthly principal and interest payment that you have to make because it's accruing. The interest is accruing on it. You still have to pay your taxes. You still have to pay your homeowners insurance, and you are obligated to pay those things, or the bank has to step in and pay them on your behalf, and then that's where things get messy. So you have to be prepared for that. And so I do think that's a good product for the right situation. But even if you don't want a reverse mortgage, sometimes folks, if they're selling a house, just to be able to not have to put all of that equity down, maybe just a portion of it, and then use the other money for either investments or savings or to live off of or whatever. They can do that, and they can qualify for a decent mortgage, and then put that money in the bank to help feed that. I had a conversation the other day with somebody about that, where I said, listen, if the mortgage payment's $1,000 a month and you're going to save $200,000, that's 200 mortgage payments. If you're in your 80s, do you really have to worry that much about it? So
right.
There's a lot of discussion that can happen, and I try to help folks with that from a cash flow standpoint.
See, Brad, I think the purpose of this show was to talk about what are the low cost things you can do to upgrade your house if you're going to sell it or not. I think the people should talk to, if you're on the fence or not sure, I think they should talk to you early on, because that will give them a perspective on what they need to do, how quickly they need to do it. I've never met a mortgage guy that doesn't want documentation. What documents do you need? This is a great time to save those documents, because you're probably doing your taxes now. So save those bad boys.
Yeah, and the other thing is, Gary, is a lot of people think, he's going to talk me into refinancing. I don't want to, I love my house and I love my 3% mortgage. I am never, I'm going to go with that thing to forever. We don't have to necessarily do that. There's second mortgages available. So if you've got work that you've got to do to your house, or maybe you've got some debt that you've built up over time, credit card debt or whatever, there's a way for us to look at that without going through the motion. We can look at that and see if we can reduce the monthly cash flow and maybe put a second mortgage on the house that is going to still lower your monthly payment that you're paying out right now, and give you the money to do the improvements that you want and make your home more, pleasant to live in, right? It's that time of year.
Absolutely. Well, Brad, I appreciate your taking your time to chat about this. How do people reach you?
Best way to reach me, Gary, is via my cell, which is 978-375-5531, or they can email me at brad@bradavergon.com. And Gary, how do they reach you?
I can be reached on my phone at 508-733-6005, or email at gary@movewithgary.com. Brad, thank you very much for participating in this soiree.
It's my pleasure, Gary. And for all those husbands out there that don't know what to get your wife for Valentine's Day, listen to these tips that Gary just gave you, and maybe put together a nice little honey-do list for your wife. You're going to paint the ceiling or paint the walls, whatever the case.
But you got to make sure you do it. You can't put it off. Or that'll boomerang on you.
That'll boomerang for sure.
Thanks, Brad.
Thanks, Gary. Be well.
Thank you for watching All Things Real Estate. If you do have any questions, feel free to reach out to Brad or Gary.